All right, man, peace. There have been a lot of very high expectations that have been placed on Kyrie Irving as well as his squad, the Boston Celtics, coming into this season. They are expected to reach the NBA Finals this year by most NBA prognosticators, myself included, even though I'm coming more and more to terms with the notion that I'm going to have to adjust that to the Toronto Raptors because the Raptors do appear to be the more well-rounded team. They have greater length. And in a series between those two teams, the Raptors would have the best player on the basketball floor in Kawhi Leonard. Well, many of these expectations, as well as Kyrie's initially slow start to the season, seem to have bubbled over in a game in Denver where Kyrie Irving was outdueled by Jamal Murray, who's a classic streak shooter. Every generation you have streak shooters that are in the NBA. Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, Jamal Crawford, certain players that come to mind that over the course of a season, they're going to average somewhere around 17 to 19 points a game, but they're going to have 2 or 3 nights a year where they give somebody anywhere from 45 to 50. And unfortunately for the Celtics, Jamal Murray's hot night was against them. Kyrie was extremely proficient. He was 13 of 17 from the floor. He had 31 points, but they lost the game. And I think that there are a lot of things swirling around in Kyrie's brain right now in regards to the pressures of being the alpha on a team that has very high aspirations. He decided after the game, where Jamal Murray scored 48 points and attempted to take and make a very long 3-point shot at the end when the game was pretty much already over, to get over that 50-point barrier. Kyrie grabbed the basketball, the game ball, which I'm sure Jamal Murray wanted to save, and chucked it into the crowd. So they decided to ask Kyrie about this issue. So, of course, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
What kind of competitor wouldn't it bother? You know what I'm saying? So, I understand if we fouled him going to the free throw line. I don't want to make a big deal out of it. Obviously, I was pissed off at the game, but it's time to decompress and move on. Congratulations to him having 48 points. The ball deserves to go in the crowd after a move like that. So, do it in the crowd.
And let me say this. For those of us who've been watching the NBA long enough, we've seen stuff like this before. We've seen players go out of their way to try to get cheap triple-doubles. We all remember the Ricky Davis game. Bobby Sura. Bobby Sura, of course, was one of the three-headed guard lineup for the Florida State Seminole basketball team in the early 90s with Sam Cassell and Charlie Ward. Bobby Sura came into the NBA in the mid-90s, and he used to try to challenge Jordan all the time. Jordan would always shit on him. Bobby Sura was relatively physically talented, and he had a game where he had a triple-double. And I believe that he was a rebound off from a triple-double, and he had a breakaway at the end of the game, and he purposefully missed the basket, rebounded it, and then put it in the basket. Or he might have purposefully hit it off the rim and then just dribbled out the clock. I think it was something like that. But that Russell Westbrook stuff, that's nothing new. Guys were far more desperate for triple doubles back in the 90s because they came far more rarely. But just to get back to this point, Jamal Murray, he doesn't know when he's going to have 50 again. I mean, like I stated, he's a streak shooter. So Kyrie was upset, but I think that he was more upset by the slow start of the Boston Celtics than by Jamal Murray's antics.
Let's get you back to first take. Celtics were a lock in many people's eyes, not yours. You had the Raptors too, to go to the finals. Now they're 6-4. We see Kyrie salty at Murray for going for his numbers. Do you like, love, or hate Kyrie's reaction?
I don't like, love, or hate it. I think it's just a manifestation of somebody who plays passionately. And it's good for Kyrie to show that level of passion early so that he can cement to his team that he's psychologically invested. They need to see that because they do have very high expectations, and he has very high expectations. He has to make this year work because if they fall short, what is he really going to do? Is he going to come back to the Celtics and make another run? Or is he going to leave and then it's going to be perceived that he's going to hightail it out of any environment where he can't get the job done? So there are a lot of pressures on Kyrie Irving this season.
Hated it. I mean, look, I understand that Kyrie Irving is like protecting the old school way here, and he's not wrong. But I don't know if you're familiar with this guy, Jalen Rose, works on the network.
Yeah,
heard of him?
Yeah. Nice fella.
As he pointed out this morning on Get Up.
I see.
What's that?
She said, is it nice fella?
Nice fella, yeah.
Like,
nice,
really?
nice guy.
Really? You couldn't give a better compliment than that? I'm just saying.
Nice guy. He's a friend of mine.
Don't embarrass.
You two idiots. You keep going on and on about the fact that this woman is married to Jalen Rose. Everybody knows it. Just move on with the segment. Really, the reason why both these guys are trying to give her a hard time about Jalen Rose is because they're jealous of Jalen Rose, most likely. And they keep trying to rib her about the fact that she's married to Jalen Rose. Just move on with the damn segment.
He's a friend of mine, Molly. I'll introduce you.
I'm a professional.
The point is, as he mentioned this morning, you didn't want him to score 50. Brother, what happened to the first 48? You should have done. But what about...
Guys always say that shit. At the end of the day, there's a difference between getting scored on in the floor of the game and somebody trying to rub your face in it by taking cheap shots at the end of the game when it's already over. And this is something that we've seen in the NBA for many years. It's something that we've seen in professional sports for many years. In the NFL, we saw the Patriots in 2007 decide that they were going to try to run up the score on everybody. And at the end, in the Super Bowl, when they lost, everybody in the NFL was happy. They were exulting in the fact that the Patriots came up short because of that energy, that bully energy that the Patriots were putting forth for that entire season. We just saw very recently a game, I think it was last year, where Chris Paul decided that he was going to try to score when the Rockets were up comfortably against Portland. And his commercial buddy, Damian Lillard, got very upset by it. So these are things that happen.
What about when he was at 28, 30, 33, 35? But that wasn't a problem? It's a problem because he's going for 50 when the game is decided? No. Kyrie, play defense. That's all. We know Kyrie...
Well, Kyrie's not going to make any all-defensive teams. We know that already. To be quite frank with you, they had a very close game against the Indiana Pacers about a week or so ago where he was dueling with Oladipo down the stretch. And Kyrie made a very big shot, as he's wont to do, and then proceeded to play horrific defense against Oladipo. He allowed Oladipo to dribble right past him. I mean, it was very pathetic defense. The only job that Kyrie had there was to stay in front of Oladipo and make him take a contested three-point shot. And he failed in that mission.
Kyrie is capable of playing defense, but he doesn't always do it. Play defense on the dude. Don't be salty because you got torched. I mean, he's not wrong about the specific that specific moment. It's kind of bush league. You go for 50. Stop it. But he has to make an issue about it when you just got lit up. That's ridiculous. Come on, stop it.
I say disrespect.
Oh, God, what?
Because, that's my man. I mean, I know we butt heads, but it's all in fun. Jalen Rose and I go back many years. I love the brother. I really do. But he is not the one to make such a statement. I mean, it is Jalen Rose that gave up 81 to Kobe. You know what I'm saying?
That's why.
Well, the Toronto Raptors are really the team that gave up 81 points to Kobe Bryant in his 666th game. So just the fact that happened, and by most accounts, according to Jalen Rose and many of the other more prominent players on the Raptors, they asked the coach how come he was not double-teaming Kobe Bryant. They tried to give him certain advice on how the team wanted to defend Kobe Bryant. And the coach, Sam Mitchell, was obstinate in his protestations against a lot of their advice. So it just seems very interesting that, as we know, Kobe Bryant, he is a Luciferian. He is a venerator of the divining serpent, Nebo. He understands the Kundalini effect, the winding serpent up the spine to illumination. And isn't it ironic that the team that he scores 81 points against in his 666th game are the Raptors?
I don't ever bring that up.
I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, you can't be on TV going like this.
Why do you have to bring up the worst moment, that one terrible moment?
First, because I can.
Jalen brought it up.
13-year NBA career.
Let me finish. Number one, because I can afford to, because Jalen Rose synonymous with the Fab Five who can ball himself. I can throw a little shade on him because it's nothing compared to the bright light that shines on his career. I'm just.
But his family might get mad at you.
I understand that, but I'm just digging at my boy right now. It's a get-up segment on First Take. That's what it is. That's what I would have said to him, and he said that in front of my face. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You get dropped.
Well, look, we all know that Jalen Rose can't guard his lunch. There was a certain stretch as a member of the Indiana Pacers under Larry Bird, where as a bench player, he brought a very good spark, and he was a relatively good defender. As a matter of fact, in that 1998, that classic Eastern Conference Finals playoff matchup against the Bulls, oftentimes he had the assignment of guarding Jordan. And even though Jordan was relatively successful against him, as Jordan normally was against most of the defenders who tried to guard him, Jalen Rose did a very good job. He was very competent. He was always in Jordan's face. And, of course, by the time he tried to guard Kobe in that game in 2006, he had been in the league already for, I think, 11 or 12 years. So he had no chance. But there were a lot of guys who got lit up by Kobe that night. Whoever was controlling Kobe had the button turned all the way up to the maximum to make sure that Kobe was able to exalt his god, the divining serpent.
Well, I'm going to go take a quick walk. You guys
give up
finish this up.
81 to Kobe.
Excuse me one second.
Don't finish this up. I'm cool.
Jalen tweeted, what about the first 48? And then he said, I should know.
Right.
He got.
So I reminded him. Ain't nothing wrong with that. I just reminded him. That's number one. Number two, I loved that Kyrie did this. You know why? Because the Boston Celtics need to wake up.
I agree. That's the main reason why I liked it as well. I mean, to me, it's not a like or hate or love thing, but he showed the passion that he needed to show as the leader of that team.
The Boston Celtics are 6-4. They've lost 2 straight. They've lost to Toronto. I believe they lost to Orlando. I know they lost to Indiana, and now they've lost to Denver. Now, obviously, understand this is not typical stuff here. Kyrie Irving is shooting the ball 4 less times thus far this year than he did last year. He's shooting 48% from the field, 41% from the 3-point range. He's averaging 19 a game. Jason Tatum is falling off a little bit. I ain't worried about him. He'll be fine. But sort of matriculating Gordon Hayward into the...
Jason Tatum has not fallen off. You guys in the media had overhyped him before the season, and I stated that point blank. And, of course, a lot of the Jason Tatum / Boston Celtics fans got upset. Jason Tatum is a nice player. He's not ready to accept superstardom right now. He's just not. But he is a very nice player. He's good in the half court. He's good in transition. He plays very good defense. The sky's the limit for him. I'm not putting any caps on what he could possibly become. But coming into the season, they're talking about him like he's going to be the new Alex English or somebody like that, or the new Tracy McGrady. And I just didn't see that. Not based off of what I saw last year. No. I thought that he had a good opportunity to go from being a 14 or 15 point per game guy to maybe 18 or 19, which the Boston Celtics will need because they do need his offense. But when I think superstar, I think 26, 27, 28 points per game on 46, 47% from the field or above.
To the equation, he's got a minutes restriction thing going on. He doesn't play more than 25 minutes. He's averaging exactly 25 minutes a game, only averaging 10 points, not really formidable yet. We understand how nasty and ugly that injury was that he sustained last year.
Well, Gordon Hayward is done in regards to being a star in the NBA. We already know that. So really what the Boston Celtics are trying to do, they're trying to showcase him for other teams in case they want to make a big trade, presumably for possibly Anthony Davis, just to show that we can package him in as a part of this deal and he can come onto your team and give you 14 points per game on about 47, 48% from the field. That's the reason why they're really playing Gordon right now.
Yeah. What I'm saying is when you look at the Boston Celtics, with the things that have been transpiring with them, Brad Stevens trying to fit bodies in, you re-signed Marcus Smart. Terry Rozier is looking for a new contract. Aaron Baines, your big boy, coming off the bench as well. Gordon Hayward's in your starting lineup. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum are somewhat compromised because of it. Kyrie was injured, but he's coming back into the mix. They got a lot of question marks, I understand it. But I like stuff like this because he got an attitude. And you don't have an attitude just because somebody dropped 48 on you or tried to score 50. You got an attitude because you lost. You got an attitude because of how you look it. And as a credit to you, you got an attitude because the Toronto Raptors are balling. 3-1 without Kawhi Leonard.
Agreed.
All right, 10-1 overall, averaging practically the same amount of points per game without him than they are with them, which is 117. These are the Toronto Raptors who have
The Denver Nuggets have a very scrappy team. I'm not quite sure how they're going to look by the end of the season, but let's keep in mind that they had a very up and down last year, and they were able to win 46 games last year. So this year, I expect them to finish at about 52, 53 wins at the very least.
have a 3.5 game lead on you in the Eastern Conference, and they look so formidable that you don't want to let it get away from you where you don't have an opportunity to have home court advantage come playoff time, because against the Toronto and against the Milwaukee, you might damn well need it. So the Kyrie Irving that I saw last night is somebody knowing how cerebral he is and how he thinks, and he prides himself on being steps ahead of the game. he sees what has been transpiring, and I think it's elevated his level of frustration. And he's like, enough's enough.
So
we got to get it together.
The Celtics are going to be fine. They're not going to have as good a record as the Raptors.
No, but that's the goal.
I get it. Those two, they should be there in the end. They do have to keep their eye on Milwaukee.
Yeah, I'm saying Milwaukee.
And Philadelphia, now that they've added Jimmy Butler.
Budenholzer may be the biggest acquisition of the offseason other than LeBron James. But
no, once again, Budenholzer is the third biggest acquisition of the offseason after LeBron James and Kawhi Leonard. And one can make the case that Kawhi Leonard may be the number one acquisition of the offseason.
But the point is this about what you're saying.
I say that because LeBron James is going to take the Lakers from a 35-win team to about a 47, 48-win team that's going to get knocked out of the playoffs either in the second or third round at the very most. Kawhi Leonard went on a team that won 59 games last year. So that's a team that was on the cusp, at least, of trying to figure out how to get to that next step. They know that they're guaranteed that they're going to get to the second round, even without Kawhi. But now with a Kawhi Leonard, that's a team now that with true and sincere championship aspirations.
You're saying, you want a fire? You got to light a fire? Do it during the game on defense. Stephen A., Kyrie will lead this team to a great position by the end of the year. They will be in the conference finals. But in the meantime, don't get salty about him going for 50. Get salty about the first 48.
Right, but once again, was Kyrie Irving even the primary defender on Jamal Murray? I watched most of that game. Yeah, Kyrie guarded him at certain moments, but he was guarded by other players. There's nonsense about if you don't like the guy going for 50, then you should have stopped him before he did the first 48. In the NBA, you're going to have great scorers who are going to have big nights. And it's not really going to matter against which defense. The Boston Celtics have, if not the best defense in the NBA, one of the best defenses in the NBA. So let's not make it an issue of defense. Jamal Murray is a great, great streak shooter.
What do you say about
Fire comes when it comes.
What do you say about a pitcher who gets mad because a hitter shows him up, rounding the bases? You say if you don't like the way they trot the bases, don't give up the home run. If you don't like the touchdown celebration, don't give up the score.
You might say that, but when you are a professional athlete, what happens is covering them the way that I do, listening to them. What they religiously say is you find whatever needles you when you find it, when it hits you. I'm saying to you, it's not that Kyrie, this was the right thing to be upset about, but if this is what it takes, so what? That's what I'm saying.
If this gets them going, good for Kyrie.
Is this segment
I
over?
hated it.
Yes.
It's over?
Yes.
Okay, good.
So, okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
It's safe. It's safe.
Listen, hope you have 81 reasons to smile now in life.
But anyway, that's basically it on that. We'll see how things go with the Boston Celtics. I do expect them to, at the very least, get to the Eastern Conference Finals, where they're going to have to be confronted with a beast. Most likely either the Milwaukee Bucks or the Toronto Raptors. We will see how they fare. Once again, with the acquisition of Jimmy Butler, I expect the Eastern Conference playoffs from the semifinals onward to be just as good, if not better, than the Western Conference playoffs. So peace.